I'm really grateful for the thorough man that this is as a journalist joining us, because he has done good, noble work that is really hard to stay after. And I don't think I have this wrong as Jim DeRogatis joins us. And we've told you about his book before. I don't think anyone, Jim, I don't have this wrong, right? I don't think anyone has done more vigorous reporting in this country on everything that happened around R. Kelly. I feel like you're most responsible for bringing him to justice, the attention that you brought to this cause.
Well, I've been on the story longest, since November of 2000. But, Dan, I've said this in the past, pointed out to you, it was the many brave women who had the courage to do the most difficult thing a woman can do, is trust a fat white rock journalist to tell their story of their sexual abuse at great at great pain, from their own communities, from their churches, from their schools, from their friends. Nobody wanted to destroy this man, and that's how he was able to prey on young women for 30 years. The sentence he got last week, 30 years in prison on the first of two federal trials, that's a little less than a year for every year he victimized women since victim number one in 1991.
Let's tell the story, though, for the audience that does not know it. And his book, Soulless, The Case Against R. Kelly, is you've seen the documentary, perhaps, but the book is very good. I've read it, and I would recommend it to you because it is his, I don't have this wrong, right? It's your life's work. You dedicated how much time to make sure that America understood that black girls were being preyed upon?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think any journalist starts a story that is this important and doesn't finish it. To be clear, Dan, I've done other things. I mean, Sound Opinions is on 150 public radio stations. It's me and the former music critic from the Tribune, Siskel and Ebert, and I've written 10 books. I wish I could stop talking about this. I think now with 30-year sentence, effectively life in prison for Kelly, maybe this story is coming to an end. But the bigger ramifications linger. We don't believe women. We especially don't believe young black girls. And I'm only amplifying what they've told me for decades. They're just not believed, not seen as victims in our society.
And you wish you could talk about other things? You wish you could leave some part of this is a burden for you, where you're saying, I'd like this to not be something I still had to talk about it? Or are you saying because we've healed it?
No, I'd like to not have to talk about it because I love music and I think about the power of music, Dan. I'd rather have a half-hour chat with you about that great Wet Leg album, Two Young Women from the Isle of Wight. It's the album of the year. Amazing. So far, and we're only halfway through. To think that this predator is now convicted and sentenced, the biggest predator in the history of popular music, where men have been mistreating women, as in your field of sports, from the era of the Bobby Soxers, okay? No one has ever been convicted of the breadth and width and depth of the crimes of Robert Sylvester Kelly. 100 women whose names I know, lives ruined since 1991 in full glare of the brightest spotlight of world stardom while selling 100 million albums. How did that happen? And the answer, is in the book. The courts in Chicago failed. He was acquitted in 2008 of making child pornography, despite the most horrifying evidence I've ever seen, a half-hour videotape of him victimizing a 14-year-old. The schools failed. They let him come and visit the sophomore choir class and pick up high school students. All but a handful of cops in Chicago failed. We heard at the federal trial that several worked security for him at double or triple their salary and turned a blind eye. Journalism failed. It was only the Chicago Sun-Times that stayed on the story. The Black church failed. They took his money. The Reverend James Meeks, the right-hand man of Jesse Jackson, was his spiritual advisor, appearing on TV with him and bringing kindergartners to his court appearances in free R. Kelly t-shirts. And most of all, the music industry failed. It's like the sports industry. I mean, people have turned a blind eye to abuse as long as the abuser was generating money.
Jim, you're going to have to forgive me for typecasting you because I have mined your expertise on this story for a while. So I will tell the audience that he's a music critic and he's the co-host, as he said, of Sound Opinions. And as I mentioned, Soulless, the case against R. Kelly, I think was important reporting. And he's always quick to remind us that it was the women being brave against the system, leaning against them, that called him as a journalist, you felt, you must be a bridge to this story, too important as work. And you want to be talking about other things. And the next time, I'm promising you, the next time we will talk about other things in exchange for mining you one more time because
so you and I have chatted several times, Dan, and it's always a smart interview, and I appreciate your attention. I have a question for you. First time I've gotten to ask you a question. Why do you think it's important on your show to talk about R. Kelly? Because I'm sure you get emails and voicemails and the hate mail I get and the hate mail the women get, saying, what are you wasting my time on this?
Oh, because it's just important that people hear from somebody who has done the important journalistic work of listening and gathering facts and doing journalism that is caring, but not necessarily activism, but trying to be objective, just getting a people heard. Your expertise is something that I believe is a bridge to telling the most honest stories that can't be refuted because you've knocked on all the doors. You saw up close how the community protected a star because black people didn't want to tear down R. Kelly. They didn't.
Yeah,
and so you went in and did the work. And I want people again and again to realize that the thing you're saying again and again is these black women had families and lives and should have been loved and they should have been protected and everyone failed them. And here's how.
Well, that's absolutely true. And it strikes me that when I started, when Kelly started his victimization, Dr. Anita Hill testified on Capitol Hill and with credible accusations of sexual harassment, and she was not believed. And when this thing came to a head again, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was testifying on Capitol Hill with credible accusations of sexual assault, and she was not believed. And now two men sit on the Supreme Court and took away a woman's right to control her own body 2 weeks ago. The ramifications of the Kelly story run deep in society, and they're much bigger than even the worst predator in the history of popular music.
Jim, I have a question. So you've been reporting on the music industry for a long time. Do you see any mistakes in the way that us as sports journalists cover athletes, and especially athletes who have had accusations of sexual violence or domestic violence against them? You already said
I think it's a matter of access often. You don't want to be kicked off the bus or the plane for the sports team that you were covering. And this is, that goes back, what was that Bolton book, right? The stuff that happens in the clubhouse, you don't want to shine a light on it. And I think many people in the music press do not want to be shut off from access to these stars. It's the same, being in Chicago, I've had many friends work at the Sun-Times and the Tribune on the sports beats. And what they sometimes say about X superstar, I've always wondered, why am I not reading that in the newspaper? And that access is the reason why. Often it's trivial stuff. So-and-so has a gambling problem. So-and-so loves to cheat on his wife. When it's more serious, when it's a man abusing his fame and power to destroy the lives of 14, 15, 16-year-old girls for 3 decades, that's when I think journalism has an obligation. I am sickened to this day by how few of my colleagues on the music beat ever dived into or forwarded any element of the Kelly story.
But I guess it's in some ways, an indictment on us as journalists that I feel like one of the things that's most difficult to cover here is the victim aspect of it, because the famous person is usually the culprit, right? And so that's where the institution begins. And then there are several institutions that are trying to get in the way of it. So very often last in what we talk about are the victims here. How much have you
Yeah.
had to almost work extra to make them the center, or I guess the priority in your coverage, as opposed to whatever the celebrity or the industry aspects of this are?
I think that's always overstated. I look at me. I'm a fat white rock critic with a lot of band tattoos on my arms. Okay, I am not part of the Black community. I am a man. What I found is that women were not being listened to by anyone in their lives, including the authorities. And what I heard again and again and again is, "Thank you for listening to me. No one believed me." They came to me, and I think as a reporter, you have to be accessible to people, and that means phone calls on Thanksgiving morning, and that means phone calls on New Year's Eve, and that I never didn't answer the phone. What is striking in so many of the women I've interviewed, 68 of them, what I heard again and again and again, besides I was a young Black girl, no one was going to believe me, is not I want to destroy that MFer. It was always, brother has a problem, brother needs help, brother has to be stopped. There was no hatred for this man. His music deeply touched people. And I understand the difficulty. If Step in the Name of Love was your wedding song, and I Believe I Can Fly played at your kid's graduation from kindergarten, and Ignition Remix powered every backyard barbecue you ever went to, that music is yours as much as it is his. So the love of the music forgave a lot, because this was the worst kept secret in Chicago for 30 years. People just did not want to believe. And I think often, that we're in the era of not believing facts, alternative facts. I'll just tune out the stuff that's unpleasant.
You mentioned the iconic nature of some of his music. A lot of that happened as well after the Michael Jackson documentary aired on HBO. What is your relationship with music that comes from people who have done things like this? I think the easiest answer is you get rid of it. But for a lot of people, you mentioned that emotional connection. It's not always that straightforward.
Well, I don't think there's a wrong and a right in art at any time. If people say that music was part of my life, I continue to listen to it, but I condemn what he did, I don't think they're wrong. If other people say I can't listen to it because it makes me sick to my stomach, I don't think they're necessarily right. I think each of us has to make our own decision. My life would be much poorer without Michael Jackson's music up until the last two albums of his career. History and Invincible are full of songs of him protesting his innocence of accusations of molesting young boys. Media, do your job, don't crucify me. Taking on the Santa Barbara County DA by name. I think it's really singular, those cases where we can't separate the art and the artist. Jackson's final albums are one example. Woody Allen's Manhattan, where an older comedian chases a high school girl, and Kelly's catalog, which champions an unfettered vision of hedonism that says, I will take my pleasure wherever I desire, and I do not care who I hurt. And if you're doubting me, go back to the title he gave the album he wrote and produced for Aaliyah when she was 15. And in a court of law, we finally have him convicted for abusing her at 15 years old. He called that album Age Ain't Nothing But a Number.
Take us back to 2008 after the acquittal. How do you keep this story alive and keep going back to victims and keeping it kind of in the news cycle after, the court of law has already declared this person innocent? And I imagine that it would be difficult to kind of pitch this to your editors when it feels like it's
Jim,
settled.
you say fairly casually, I don't know, I'm very disappointed in my fellow music critics not advancing this story. It requires resources, and you have to be indefatigable about draping yourself in the crusade and the energy of these women who are trying to explain something to you that nobody talks about.
Well, I disagree with that. I mean, there was there were civil lawsuits, And that's a trip down to Cook County Courthouse to read these accusations in black and white. There was the videotape, which was available for sale on street corners for 6 months before it was deemed child pornography and he was indicted. It was always there. And I think that hip white rock critics especially began to portray Kelly as sort of shtick. He was the sexual predator, but he was the sexual super freak. He called himself. He was the Pied Piper of R&B. Trapped in the closet, sex with a midget, sex with a cop. Cheating. They began to see it as shtick and not think about those victims who had already spoken out and who continued to speak out to me. One of the key witnesses in the federal trial was 15 years old, cut class every day to attend his 2008 trial, and was a super fan. And he picked her up and began abusing her and her girlfriend, not long after he was acquitted. After that acquittal in 2008, his behavior only amplified and got weirder and more sickening. The testimony in court in Brooklyn last September, beating women, forcing them to eat their own feces if they broke his rules, which included sexually pleasuring him on videotape, and encounters with boys that he forced them to have that he was also having sex with. The underage boys was something I'd never even reported. That only came out in trial. The man was a monster. And to laugh, ha, 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 sex in the kitchen, how funny. I want to be your sexosaurus. Wow, R. Kelly's really horny and really funny. There was plenty of record already that journalists had ignored. And it took the BuzzFeed story of 2017, and then Dream Hampton, a brilliant Black activist and documentary maker, working on that first season of Surviving R. Kelly to really introduce people to the women. The women were ignored for most of this. And then you meet them and you see woman after woman after woman telling the same story about when they were girls and when they were abused. And they cannot all be lying.
Jim, as you're shouting to the heavens in the reporting, this is so very wrong. Please, people, listen to this. It's happening in plain sight. He's telling you about it in his song. All of this is wrong, and it's been wrong for decades. In all the places where you would get personally appalled while dedicating yourself to this work, what is that the most appalling thing that these women, or is there something more appalling than that? That no one was listening and they weren't even being mean about it. They were just asking for help.
Yeah, I think you're not a human being, much less a journalist, if you see a woman who has been sexually abused, sexually assaulted, saying, no one is believing me, no one is listening, and you don't do what you can. I don't think, Dan, you'd be walking down the street and see a woman getting hit or abused and not act. Right? You're a big guy. I'm a big guy. We would do whatever we could, yell, shout, scream, call the cops, blow the panic whistle. I think that's number one. But number two, there's a special place in hell for Judge Vincent Gaughn, who presided over that trial in 2008, allowed it to take 6 years to go to trial when there was this horrifying evidence, nearly a half hour long, of sexually abusing a 14-year-old, not just raping her, urinating in her mouth. She was trash to R. Kelly. And here it is on video. And Judge Gaughn bent over backwards to make it all about one girl on one tape when there was already so much evidence of Aaliyah and 5 civil lawsuits. I will add, he presided over the shooting trial of Laquan McDonald, shot 16 times in the back, and that cop, did 2.5, 3 years. Race and sexism, misogyny, and racism are intertwined here. They are the plagues of American society today. They're getting worse. The divide is just becoming worse. And we are not. Look at, the cops just arrested a 21-year-old kid who had 5 guns and 17 knives and killed 7 people and hurt 31 in Highland Park here outside of Chicago, right? And when they arrested him, they said, would you please lie on the ground? And they shot a young black kid in the back 70 times in Akron, Ohio. What's the difference? I mean, I'm not the first to point that out. Many columnists are writing about that, but the white kid gets the deference. The too often the black kid gets shot in the back.
On that note, Jim, and I urge you to listen to Sound Opinions. He does have expertise in other areas that he is not, because you sound weary of talking about this, and I just can't imagine what this has been like for the women if just the mining of, because you've just dedicated, I understand wanting to move, like, can I get back to my life? But this is the burden. Mitch Albom talks about it when he wrote Tuesdays with Maury. If you're going to dedicate your life to this, then it becomes the singular life thing that your expertise keeps calling you to remind people of these very basic things that tell you what's happening in America right now. Because I'm guessing as you watch all of this, I mean, I don't know if you consider yourself a political person or not, but you've done this reporting. It's not like you're surprised that what has happened in Chicago for the last 30 years of depravity, you see it now everywhere in American politics and culture and the daily stuff we're watching on television.
I wish that it weren't so. I wish that instead we could have a debate about the Kendrick Lamar album or champion the Wet Leg album.
All right, can we do this next time? Can we do that? All right, go ahead. You want to do Kendrick Lamar? I don't think, Tony, you want to do Kendrick Lamar with this guy? You want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, what do you got on Kendrick Lamar? Let's go.
So, double-sided album. I thought Mr. Ron the Big Stepper was good. I was interested in how he brought Kodak Black in, and he was kind of a central theme throughout the album. What do you think about that, Jim?
I'm really troubled by the amount of misogyny on that album. Kendrick knows better. And Kodak Black, I mean, and there's also 2 shout outs in a positive way to R. Kelly on that album. Framed as a black man who was unjustly tried and convicted. Mr. Lamar, you are very wrong about that.
Wow, Tony, he really dragged you with his information.
What did he drag me about? We're having a conversation.
Germany now. We could have this debate for half an hour, my friend. We did have it on Sound Opinions, and music matters. Music is important.
You had this debate about, wait a minute, with who you had this debate?
With Kendrick Lamar. Greg and I are two music critics, and we talked about the Lamar album, and we were both troubled by the amount of misogyny and homophobia. There's 2 songs where he talks about 2 relatives who have come out as trans, and, he still is using the F word. And, he uses the B word a hell of a lot. He wants to fuck him some white bitches, he tells us 20 times in one song's chorus. I don't know, but there's much to be mined there. He also was a singular voice in predicting Black Lives Matter, and the last 2 albums are nothing short of brilliant. Hell, he has a Nobel Prize. I don't have shit, Dan. I have the Dan Prize of gratitude for coming and talking to you.
Did you forget my last name? Is that what just happened there?
No. I didn't know how to say it correctly.
Okay, that's okay.
It's Le Batard, right?
Yeah, close enough. It's okay.
DeRogatis.
I do appreciate your expertise, Tony. Do you have any more with him? Because I
got
There's so much.
Dan.
Yeah, he's got to leave. There's so much to unpack in that album. Dan was incredible, and it's such a stark departure from where he is now.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, you guys have a great day.
You ever seen that on social media? People are like birthday behavior.
No.
I
have
not following the right people. I
have a bit of a sad admission, which is my 30th birthday is in a month and a half, and I have done absolutely no planning. I'm not enthusiastic about it.
You don't plan your own birthday.
Yeah, why would you plan for your own birthday?
But people, where do you want to go? Where what do you want to do? What gifts do you want? I just don't. I'm not feeling it.
So yours is in a month, you said, right?
Month and a half.
Month and a half. Okay, so my birthday is in 19 days, and I haven't thought about it once.
Billy has been unbelievable.
He's such
today.
an evil cat, dude. He's the worst.
Tony goes to him, hey, I got something for you.
This is awful,
and Billy just goes, I don't care.
No, Billy's
the
I'm
worst.
just like, before I can even begin.
But then I say it, and he actually wants to talk about it now. So it's like,
let's examine this. I need to examine this for a second because
I was working. I had to save the.
You were not
Someone has to
working.
keep this shit moving. You know what I mean?
Oh, please.
Yeah, you're always there for us to always keep this shit moving, Billy. And you delight in Tony's failures. I've never seen a work environment like this before in my life where I can so clearly enjoy you undermining Tony and Lewis, enjoying whenever it is they're incompetent. And so I go to you with expertise. How did you experience me? Me throwing the hip-hop expertise of the show to Tony, who was not expecting it, and him getting buried by Jim DeRogatis. As Jim DeRogatis broke down the Kendrick album much better than Tony did and told Tony a bunch of things he did not know.
Well, Tony's whole thing was, Jim, I like this song. What'd you think?
No, that's not what happened. Again, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, first off. The entire album, it's a two-part.
Seems like you didn't.
It's a
either.
two-part album. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. He does this for a living. I do it for recreation. My bad. Okay, he broke down societal issues with the album. I was just talking about, hey, there's a lot of Kodak Black in this. Why is that a theme, right? Which plays onto other stuff that he was talking about. And then he's obviously talked about this a million times before and steamrolled with excellent points. And I'm like, oh shit, okay.
No, but
my bad.
No, but I want to examine for a moment how much Billy enjoyed that in a bit of a surprise.
I felt bad for Tony there, to be honest.
Why are we feeling bad? Like
I felt bad.
If that was another 5 minutes,
I got bit by a dog. And you lost a tooth.
No,
it's been
a bad week, Dan. You know what? It's Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Whatever day it is, it's already been a long week for me.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, I got bit by a dog and chipped my tooth.
Yeah.
It's 1:51 Wednesdays. What do you mean you don't know what day it is?
It's been a week already. Yeah. Anyways, if that conversation went another 5 minutes, we would have had a really interesting conversation. The problem is he had to get out to talk to Germany, and it was like 30 seconds here it is, misogyny, sexism, homophobia, bam, what do you got? And I'm like, Kodak Black is there, okay.
But that's how I experienced it too. And
okay, it wasn't just me then.
And no, I imagine the entire audience was like, hey, Tony came in clapping, dímelo mi gente.
Kodak Black.
Let's talk hip hop. I'll give him something. I'll say this and that and Kodak Black. And then the guy buries you with, all of this is really problematic.
Yeah, he buried Kendrick, not me. I didn't make the album.
Well, but he sort of dragged
it's just,
you.
It just dragged you for like you're just being a fan and don't actually realize what's happening.
And Billy,
there.
this one made you feel bad because normally you feel very good when these things happen to Tony.
It's been a week. Again, dog bite, chipped tooth.
Yeah, that was the chipped tooth is becoming more of a problem. I bit my lip like 3 times on the sharpness of my chipped tooth, and it's
Which tooth
bad.
is it?
It's like on my middle one right here to the
Bottom?
left. Yeah, bottom row.
Playing
even
basketball,
noticeable.
what happened?
No, I bit into a rib. Chipped my tooth biting into a rib after the
No
dog bit
way.
me. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh.
Why? What do you mean why?
Why did the dog bite you?
He's kind of an evil dog, and he's a good friend of mine. He knows his dog is a bit evil,
Oh.
and he's an evil dog, right? So
There's no such thing.
There are.
Please.
You know what? There's like 1% of dogs that are just mean.
There's no evil dogs. There's evil people.
There you
No,
go.
that's
Your
not.
friend is
No.
evil.
I didn't bite
No.
him.
No,
He bit
but,
me.
but,
The people training
but
the
Ron
dogs
told us that dogs know.
Dogs
You know
know
what I mean?
what?
Like real
Oh,
hoopers
yeah.
know. Dogs know when there's bad people
So the
around.
problem is that this
That's what they
dog
do.
has bitten like 7 people.
All right, it's a mean dog.
It's a mean dog. I love him. Hey, I love
Why
the
don't
guy.
they train this dog not to bite people?
He was there's a bit of a PTSD when it comes to the dog. He was abused. Like he's got like issues that are more than what we can handle.
his
Yeah,
He was-
business
not
out.
really
He was
sure what
rescued.
any of this has to do with
Because
how
it's been a week. It's been a week.
has been a
And
week,
so,
yeah. I
you
got
know, you
bit by a
show
dog,
up,
Dan,
and,
right
and
here.
you think like, and the thing was is that if you think about the context of what happened in the interview, it's 20 minutes of incredibly serious, important conversation about a news story.
It's an important conversation. I'm glad we're having it because I feel at this point, all of this stuff is bouncing against each other. The politics. Look, man, as Joe Rogan is out here getting applause for saying, I'm not going to support Trump, as he endorses DeSantis, who's like Trump in a better costume.
I mean, it's not even a costume at this point. I mean,
well-
the whole thing about, DeSantis is pro-liberty, and then this weekend, a member of a medical panel in the state of Florida got removed from the University of Miami because she dared to say that kids under 5 should get the vaccine, and now she's gone. Like, there is nobody who is more sensitive to things that are critical of his government that will cancel more people than Ron DeSantis.
I mean,
Did it with the Disney Corporation, one of the biggest companies in the state. This is the most sensitive governor on the planet.
it's appallingly stupid, but we can't escape any of this garbage. And yes, that was a serious segment with a man with great expertise who was warning us for 30 years. Hey, you guys want to pay attention to the dehumanizing of black bodies and women, and you want to pay attention? And the answer was no at every turn when it was all out in front of us. It was, We didn't want to talk about it. We didn't want to see it. And it was all like spilling like a disease and a pedophile predator that was singing nice songs.
Well, and as he said, it sort of became a joke, as horrible as that is to say. Like, I knew that R. Kelly was a sexual predator like 10 years ago. And the idea that, like, he kept making new music that became popular new music was, oh, the sexual predator made a song again. Like, it became to a point where it was almost... It's gross. It was almost like a meme.
I mean, Dave Chappelle did a skit about this.
Right. Like, it's so out there and it's so well known, and yet he just keeps persisting. Like, there's some people that even after they do awful things, they just persist through whatever personality they have, and it takes people saying, no, the criminal justice system needs to look at this again and again and again. And as he said, there's a judge, the first judge should, rise in hell for not having done enough to save even more people from being victimized.
What in hell? Rot or rise?
Do you rise in hell?
You rot in hell.
Why would you rise in hell?
Why would you rise in hell? You rot.
descent into hell.
If it's
Well-
like a pizza and there's yeast, the heat might make it rise.
So
Right.
the reason why I said that is because in
I don't
Ace,
think humans are
in
pizza.
Ace Ventura,
No, there's no yeast in you.
Ray Finkel's
Maybe
mother says, I hope Dan Marino dies of gonorrhea and rises in hell. Would you like a cookie, son? And so I figured rising in hell. I'm referencing the Ace Ventura scene where Ray Finkel's mom shows a
You've
tray
never
of.
seen Ace Ventura?
Nope.
Wow, that's
Oh, she's too young.
It's
No,
such
she's
a great,
not.
such a great movie.
I actually saw a movie this weekend that I had never seen before that my friend was like, oh, you have to watch this movie. You have to watch this movie. Like, it's such an important movie for me and my generation. So we watched it. Man, that didn't age well. I feel like we say this a lot about 90s movies.
What was the movie?
The movie was Clueless. And the thing that didn't age well was that the main character has a relationship with her stepbrother. And they kiss at the end. And her stepbrother's Paul Rudd.
It's weird.
But anyway, so in Ace Ventura,
That was awkward.
Ace Ventura walks into
I agree.
Ray Finkel's living room, and Ray Finkel's mother, who's still very upset about the Dan Marino thing, says, hands him a tray of cookies and says, I hope Dan Marino dies of gonorrhea and rises in hell. Would you like a cookie,
Are you
son?
sure you heard that correctly?
I'm
'Cause
100% certain.
all
I
of us-
must-
All right, let's all stop and watch Ace Ventura together.
Yeah.
But
The
Hold
Hold
HBO
on,
sure we
hold
Max.
get
on,
this
hold
right.
on.
HBO
In the Zoom
Max, right?
chat, we have a message
Oh.
that says from IMDb, Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Would you like a cookie, son?
I guess that's a fine there, Chris.
did you just hear it wrong all your life? Was it a loud room you were watching this in? And
I've
all your
watched
life,
this movie 100 times. I
All-
feel like I'm certain.
Why?
Oh, I love it's like legitimately one like it was you have it on DVD as a kid, and I had like my parents had one of those SUVs that have the DVD
Oh,
in the car,
excuse us.
and so that was one of like the 7 DVDs that we had on rotation. So I must have seen this movie like 60
Jim
times.
You
Carrey's
had a
a
limo
genius.
growing up, it sounds like, yeah.
I mean, it was a growing fad at the time.
You would say, but Jessica, you don't know the period of Jim Carrey's genius career when Jim Carrey, you associate him with what?
The Truman Show,
Wow.
which is a great film. Haven't seen it in a while. I feel like that holds up.
So you don't have any, you know Jim Carrey's silly side, or?
Yes. He always made weird faces.
You've never seen In Living Color.
No.
Wow.
Mask, but
the mask is
The Mask is like a meme now, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
but your introduction to Jim Carrey as a genius was the serious part of his career?
Yeah, The Truman Show. That was the first Jim Carrey. And I've seen that movie a million times because it's always on TBS, I feel like. It was a good movie.
The point is that Jim DeRogatis was brought on to talk about R. Kelly, and then it turned into being questioned by a guy that got bit by a dog. And it ended exactly how you'd think that would
But how
go.
were you experiencing, as we talk about repetitive behavior in plain sight of things, you're alleging now at the microphone in a way that I believe to be Stugotz level soaked in insincerity, that you did not enjoy Tony getting
No, I
steamrolled.
felt bad. I'm telling you, man, he's had a week. I've been seeing it weigh on him all week long, all one day that we've been here. And he's there, and then I ask him, he has a Band-Aid on his hand again, like a dum-dum. And I go, how's the hand? And he goes, I was in urgent care for 3 hours. Just I go, I went to the wrong one. I told you, there's one that there's never a line.
So Dan, he's like, if you want to go to the urgent care, I'll tell you which one to go to. And then 30 seconds later, he's like, you know what? I don't want to tell you. I don't want you to go. So I had to go to the Coral Gables one, and it took me 3 hours to get there.
There's an important reason why I did that.
Are you guys friends? or-
Yes,
No.
very much so, actually.
Oh. Well, there's a reason why I did that. And it's because he's a bit of a chatty Cathy. And
No,
he's
I'm
one of
not.
these people that, tells everybody everything. And I found an urgent care that I can go in and out of relatively quickly. And it's within distance of Tony's, it's in his
Abode?
vicinity, I would say. Not really, but it's close enough that he'd go to it. And I don't want to tell him where it is because I know he's going to tell people. And then the next time I have an emergency, I'm going to have to wait 3 hours because I can't trust him.
This is the Larry David shortcut in the most recent episode, or the most recent season of Curb, where he knows a shortcut how to get to North Hollywood or wherever, and he tells one person, and all of a sudden there's a traffic jam, and he doesn't show up to a funeral. As a
He would
result.
tell people.
Is it a
Tony would
Baptist
tell you.
one, or is it an off-brand
I
one?
That's right.
can't tell you.
No, tell me.
I
Is it
can't.
a Baptist at least?
Can't tell you.
Tony, I don't mean to assail your character.
Oh, boy.
But you like to know the place that other people don't know and tell them about
That's
it.
exactly
Real
right.
urgent care patients
That is a
know,
bad
right, Billy?
character trait, man.
Yeah.
That is a.
It's one of many of
actually,
Tony's,
it's
honestly.
most often very helpful. Like, hey, I'll go to Tony. Hey, I really like Korean food. And you go, I know just the place. Like, you always have just.
I got the place for you, yeah.
So you got the place.
I'm that guy.
But in this instance, the place would have Billy in a line of 20 people. 'cause
Exactly.
But I
you're
don't care
urgent
about Billy.
care.
That's exactly my
But I
point.
don't care about Billy. I got bit by the dog. You didn't.
But you're
Help
proving.
me.
you're-
Help you.
No, you just proved why I wouldn't tell you because you just said you don't care about me.
I know, but you
So
don't
it-
care about me.
I do care about
No,
you.
you don't, or else you tell me. You don't want me sitting in
okay,
3-hour
can't be
lines.
I don't
trusted.
want to do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
Neither do I, Dan.
I want to place in front of the audience the question: person you trust least, guy who will not read comic strips,
Weirdo.
or guy you can't tell about the secret place because he's going to tell everybody about the secret place. And I think this is uniquely male. So can I make it just guy? Because I don't think women, Tony, there's a special kind of annoying here. You cannot trust him. And it's a bad thing to not trust.
He knows the place.
I think we should just do who do you trust least, Billy or Tony?
Well, no, the other one's Witty, actually. Witty's not reading the comic.
Yeah,
Wow.
but we should post that one
Yeah.
also. 'Cause
But-
that would be a
Well,
real
no, it's a run.
mind
It's a
bender.
runaway. Everybody trusts Billy. Nobody trusts me. But that's because we're different people. And my character's been assailed on this show by Chris Whittingham 17 times.
I've
Psychoanalyzed, it's not
only
even
done it
true.
twice. Only done it
Crazy.
twice. Called you a one-upper and said you like to know a place. Yeah. It's the only two.
Everybody
the only two
likes
ways in
to
which-
know a place. What do you want me to go to the shitty place? It's crazy.
Whittingham, I do not think enough has been made of your obsession today as well, and it's somehow escaped the poll of needing and wanting to unfurl a newspaper in
You
business
like that
class.
sound? It's such a great sound. One of the great sounds of life. The topic that Tony wanted to get off the ground was the great smells of life. But one of the great sounds of life.
That's the one I told him I don't care. Yeah.
Well, you guys, I heard about
The
great
great
smells of life,
smells
and
of
none of you
life?
defined pungent correctly.
Oh my God. Dan, it was infuriating.
I can't leave for
he
5
had
minutes.
cucumber on his list.
I'm telling you, if you put a cucumber on something,
It's not
that thing
pungent.
tastes-
You guys
it
don't
tastes
know
like
what
cucumber.
pungent means.
Yes, he's right.
I can't leave for 5 minutes without you guys doing an entire segment on
Dan,
things being pungent. And
I
you,
know that- I know that-
cucumbers don't taste like anything.
Yes, they do. They
Yes,
taste
they
like
do, Dan.
aggressively like cucumber. Aggressively.
absolutely.
And perhaps I shouldn't have used the word pungent. I should have used the word invasive, perhaps, in that when you eat a cucumber with something, the whole thing tastes like cucumber. I understand that wasabi is more pungent than cucumbers. The only argument that I was making was that when you put a cucumber on something, I don't want to eat it because the whole freaking thing
I'm
tastes
gonna
like
need
cucumber.
the bass to come down in your voice.
I'm going to pass out right now.
No, he needs to say it with his chest, Dan. He's right.
Pungent was defined incorrectly last week.
A lot happened while you were gone.
Yeah.
Pungent
How was the walk?
was the least of our offenses. How was the walk?
It was good. Lasted 5 days.